Chair Hart and Commissioners Mandy Sackett, Senior Policy Coordinator for Surfrider Foundation. SpaceX launch program expansion will reduce public beach access, increase marine debris, produce harmful noise and sonic booms, and impact marine life and people in surrounding communities, even as far as Ojai and the Channel Islands. And this is demonstrated by the thousands of complaints of sonic booms throughout the counties surrounding Vandenberg. In other states, SpaceX launches have caused numerous issues. In Texas, for example, Surfrider and other organizations are suing the FAA for failure to address the environmental harms that SpaceX launches have had on the beach and beach access. In Florida, there are concerns over SpaceX's unregulated wastewater discharges, with Vandenberg's objection to staff's conditions 1 through 3, which represent very common sense minimum necessary requirements for compliance with state law. It is apparent that we cannot rely on this company or federal agencies to protect the California coast. Please do not concede to Vandenberg's opposition to robust biological monitoring and reporting and minimizing sonic booms. As global leaders, this commission can set the tone for commercial space launches and set minimum standards for protecting public resources and the environment. We agree with the staff analysis that SpaceX should be the applicant here. SpaceX should show their commitment to being good stewards of public resources and submit an application for a permit, and to do so otherwise is unlawful. At the same time, we understand the Commission's desire to collaborate with Vandenberg and move forward with this consistency determination. Therefore, we support the staff recommendation and the addendums. Staff's conditions represent the bare minimum for what is needed to understand the impact of this unprecedented launch rate, to avoid unnecessary closures at Halama Beach Park, to protect the vibrant sea life and marine protected areas, and avoid unnecessary marine debris. So I would suggest objecting if the Air Force agrees to conditions 1 through 3. Thank you.
Thank you. And just Nathan.
Hi, my name is Nathan Malcolm, and I'm a volunteer for the Surfrider Foundation. I'll begin by reading a brief excerpt from a New York Times article posted in July of this year entitled, "Wildlife Protections Take a Backseat to SpaceX's Ambitions." As Elon Musk's Starship, the largest rocket ever manufactured, successfully blasted towards the sky last month, the launch was hailed as a giant leap for SpaceX and the United States civilian space program. 2 hours later, once conditions were deemed safe, a team from SpaceX, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, and a conservation group began canvassing the fragile migratory bird habitat surrounding the launch site. The impacts were obvious. The launch had unleashed an enormous burst of mud, stones, and fiery debris across public lands encircling Mr. Musk's $3 billion space compound. Chunks of sheet metal and insulation were strewn across sand flats on one side of the state park, and elsewhere, a small fire had ignited, leaving a charred patch of grassland, remnants from the blastoff that burned 7.5 billion pounds of fuel. End quote. At Surfrider, we are concerned that SpaceX is not holding the highest regard for our environment or surrounding communities. While the rockets being launched in Texas are not the same as those in California, our vital ecological, recreational, aesthetic, and economic coastal resources are similarly at risk. Once again, this agency is in a position where you all, as the commissioners, are heeding the call to protect public interests in invaluable coastal habitat, not just in California, but across the entire nation. We need to send a strong message to SpaceX and Vandenberg that their activities should be carefully regulated, monitored, mitigated, and minimized. Thank you.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Chair, commissioners, and staff, my name is Joan Tharp. I live in Port Hueneme, where I can hear the sonic booms, and I am representing the Surfrider Foundation Ventura County chapter. I also volunteer for Ventura Audubon Shorebird Recovery Program and the Channel Islands Marine and Wildlife Institute. The Santa Barbara County coastline is an important destination for our chapter's members and supporters, and we consider the vast open space a resource that is important for all of us to protect and access. Surfrider's members and supporters frequent Halama Beach County Park, as does my family. It is an essential access resource in an otherwise fairly inaccessible stretch of coastline, and any restrictions to access have major impacts on families who wish to spend time at the coast. Marine mammals are being seriously impacted by domoic acid poisoning due to toxic algae blooms. This toxin attacks the central nervous system and brains of marine mammals like the California sea lion. Sonic booms and other noise impacts will continue to stress sea mammals with chronic DA. Warming oceans will create more harmful algae blooms and worsen the health of sea mammals. Warming oceans, increased noise, and environmental toxicity are a toxic mix for marine and human health. I am also worried about mitigation for impacts to western snowy plovers. Vandenberg is the largest nesting site for this listed species, and launches threaten the entire species recovery. This site is that important. We support staff's conditions 1 through 3 for biological monitoring. Please do not omit or water down these conditions. Water these down. These conditions represent the absolute bare minimum for understanding the impacts, especially in light of the ongoing increase in launches SpaceX intends to implement. If Vandenberg will not agree to staff's conditions 1 through 3 for biological monitoring, analysis, public reporting, as well as sonic boom minimization, the Commission should object. California needs to be a leader on this issue, and we're counting on you to protect our coast from unrestricted commercial activity. For your time.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Hart and honorable commissioners. My name is Jennifer M., and I'm a legal intern with the Surfrider Foundation. I'm speaking today to express support for the staff recommendation that the Commission conditionally concur with the Air Force's consistency determination for the proposed increase in SpaceX launches at Vandenberg. This concurrence must be conditioned on Air Force's agreement to the protective measures proposed by staff. Staff have attempted in good faith to negotiate with Air Force on conditions 1 through 3, but the Air Force has been unwilling to consider staff's recommendation. In spite of overwhelming evidence, the Air Force continues to insist that sonic booms are not impacting the coast and refuses to come up with a plan to minimize these impacts. They are refusing to conduct off-base acoustic and biological monitoring, and they are refusing to conduct on-base biological monitoring beyond that required by Fish and Wildlife and National Marine Fisheries Service, despite the fact that neither of those agencies have had the opportunity to consider the impacts of sonic booms. The conditions that staff have proposed are the bare minimum necessary to ensure that our coasts are protected. And if the Air Force continues to refuse to comply with these conditions, the Commission should object. SpaceX has repeatedly demonstrated a flagrant disregard for laws and regulations designed to protect people and the environment. In Texas, they've allowed debris to rain down on communities and sensitive coastal habitats, and they have restricted public access to coastal areas. But California has something that Texas does not, a coastal commission. And this commission may be the only thing standing in the way of SpaceX continuing to ignore the law and destroy coastal habitats and communities for their own monetary gain. Today, you have the opportunity to make it clear to SpaceX and everyone watching that nobody is above the law. We urge you to adopt the staff's recommendation and conditionally concur with consistency determination. Thank you.